Hello everyone and welcome to Agent Power Virtual Agent. In today's episode, we will look at how to build a customer identification process within Power Virtual Agent with the help of Power Automate. This was the only no-code way I could find, and I'm sure over the period of time there would be more functionalities available, but we'll look at it, how to identify and verify a customer, coming up right after the intro. All right, so before we do anything else, we know the agenda for today. Let's quickly have a recap what we did, because this is going to be the last episode of Agent Power Virtual Agent. So I would just like to say thank you so much for watching and supporting my videos and channel. In episode 1, we looked at getting started. Episode 2, we understood topics along with a system fallback. Episode 3, we looked at understanding entities. Episode 4 was about variables and Power Automate. 5, where we understood authentication of internal user if they are on Azure AD. Episode 6 is about configuring channels on Microsoft Teams. Configuring channels only, custom website and Microsoft Teams, where we can use our PVA. And in this episode, we are just going to try and build a customer identification process in PVA to start the conversation with. So we will jump straight into our Power Virtual Agent. I'm at home. Now, there can be multiple scenarios. I understand that there can be scenarios like I want to update the failure of verification, success of verification. I want to verify just once a day or once per session and things like that. I would classify that as advanced, and I haven't worked on that. I have only worked on the scenario where at the beginning of the chat, we will pose these questions to the user or customer, and if they answer it correctly, they're successfully verified and they can proceed. If they don't, it shows a failure message. So that's it. Now if you want to build a full-fledged identification process, you will have to make some enhancement in your PVA. So without further delay, what we'll do is click on topics, and we will go to system topics and then go to altering canvas for this one. Now here so this is about greetings. So if somebody says hi, hello, or whatever, it should be all here, right? So this is where I want to ask questions about customer verification first before even we can proceed, right? Now, what I'll do is I will delete some messages from here. So I delete this one. This I will let it be. I would say change this message to before we proceed, I would need to verify you. Please answer the following questions. Right now, I've thought of 3 key questions. One would be last name. Second one would be mobile number, and third one would be postal code or zip or postcode, whatever you call it, right? So from here on, what I'll do is my next thing would be Either I can ask here that do you want to proceed, right? So let's do that and say, do you want to proceed? Proceed with the verification. And we will make it a Boolean. So rename it to agree to verification. Done. And here I'll put a condition, add a condition. If they say agree to verification is true, then we will pose further questions. If it's false, which is all of the conditions, we will transfer the chat to an agent, right? Unverified customer. That's what I'll say to the agent as a bot, okay? Now here, what we'll do is go ahead and ask a few more questions. So here I'll say, what's your last name? And I'll just copy paste this. I want to capture user's entire response here, so I select that and rename it as last name. Done. The next one would be another question, which would be, what's your mobile number? Right, and this would be user's entire response as well, and change the name to mobile. Done. And the last question is, what's your postcode? Right, and this would be user's entire response as well, and we'll change the name to. Once we've added all the 3 questions which we wanted to verify, we will click on this add button and then click call in action. So we click here, and then we will start working on our flow. So we'll click create a flow and just rename this to customer identification. Now in terms of inputs, or all our inputs were text, so we will say text, text and text, and the first one was last name, the second one was mobile number, the third one was postcode. So we have done that. And in the output, I will say, maybe I'll just call it where status. Yeah. Okay. Now, this is the pre-built template. We will have to work through it to be able to do what we want to do, which is customer verification. So click here and add an action. Look for variables, and one of them we'll select, which is called initialize variable, right? So we select this one and we will call it into a variable name. We'll call it failure, and we will say string. Now here what we're gonna do is, so we're putting this in so that if the next step wherein we are going to fetch the list of customers and try and match these inputs to the CDS entity or database, whatever record type. In my case, I'll be working on contacts instead of accounts, because organizations, I just took the scenario where contacts obviously can act as a customer and they can chat with a chatbot. So that's why I'm working on contacts. And this one, what we are going to do is type our failure message. So we will say verification for customer with last name and then we will pick last name from here and say verification for customer with last name failed, right? That's all we'll do. The next step, and you'll understand about it more once we get to the next step, because this is when the next step is not succeeded, right? So that's when this message will show on our chatbot or PVA. So the next step, what we need to do is look for such contacts or customers who have got the same value, right? So I'll say list records, and here I'll select my environment. I've only got one, but you can select whichever environment you're working on. And then I'll look for contacts. Now, a contact and account can both act like a customer, so it's completely fine. So that I've taken. Now, what are we comparing? We're comparing last name, mobile name, and postcode. So we need to get to our entity, and you'll see there's something called filter query. So here we will filter a list by, so I know last name, the schema name is last name. So I'll say last name. Now, where can you find it? Is if I go here, and you can go to entities. This is my powerapps instance. And if I click on contact, and then you've got these fields, right? You will always see schema name under the name column. So let me just click to all. So whatever is listed here, that's what we use in Power Automate, right? So last name equals, and I'll say this equals the last name, which was being input by the customer. Then we will apply an and say mobile number. So mobile number is called mobile phone in the backend. So I'll say mobile phone equals, and then select the mobile phone from the input, and then apply an and again and say, so postcode is called, the one I'm using is address1 underscore postal code, and that equals my input here. So that's my query, and we are gonna pick the top count 1. So we'll just pick one record, because we're looking in a list, and a list can have more than one record, but we are only looking at the first record, right? Once we have got this one, right, the next one, again, we have to work on a variable. Okay, so we go, say add an action, and we look for this variable action. And here, what we are gonna do is, instead of initialize variable, we are going to set a variable. And here, you can say select failure, which we initialized here. And the value here would be, so the value here would be from the list records, we will pick up full name. And as and when you put in full name there, it shows you apply to each, because it's just below the list records action. So that's what happened here. I have named it as failure. You can rename it to anything else if you want, but now this has happened. Here itself, what I'm gonna do is add another field. So let me put a space. The other field, which is a custom field I created to store the status of verification, is called verification status. So I'll go to my custom fields, and you can see verification status, right? Now, you might need another step to update this record. I don't, because I've fixed the default value there. So I'm just fetching some text from there, right? So let me just pick up that as well from here, verification status. So now I've got that. In the written values status here, I will just select my variable. Okay. Now, I don't think failure is looking really right. So what I'll do is I'll just say response. just rename it to response, right? And let me just hit save. Once that's done, your flow is saved. Now we'll go back to Power Virtual Agents and extend our steps. So what we'll do, call an action, and the action we just created is called customer identification process. We will select that one. And here we'll map the variables. So last name is last name, mobile number is mobile, postcode is postcode, and the output was status. Now here we will just quickly show a message, which would be status. So status is basically our output from there. So we've just picked that up. Now we'll hit save here. And after it's saved, the dialog is saved, we will try and test it. So it's saved. Let's try and test it by hi or hello anything. So I'll just type hi, and it should come up with the options. Before we proceed, I would need to verify you. Please answer the following questions. I want to proceed. Yes. Once that's done, it will ask me my first question, which was my last name. Here, my mobile numbers. I'm entering the mobile number which is saved in the system, and that, and then the postcode finally. And now we will see that message that the customer, so my full name, thank you for your verification, I can assist you now, right? We will quickly reset it to look at the second scenario. What if I enter incorrect details? So let me type hello this time. And I would like to proceed. And it says, what's your last name? I'll tell it correctly. In terms of phone number, I'll enter this. And in terms of postcode, I'll enter that correctly. So let's see what happens now. Verification for customer with last name Shukla failed, right? And this is what we have developed here in this flow. Now, if you will ask me why did I create this field called verification status, there's this reason. So what will happen if I input the text here in message saying that the full name of the customer, your verification is successful. What happens then, it just combines with the failure message. So what we see here in this case, verification for customer with last name Shukla fail, it will also have the text we have added here. Okay. Now that's why I didn't add it here. Quickly repeating this step, all we have done is went to the topic called greetings and changed it a bit. Before proceeding, we asked a few questions, took the permission of the customer that do they agree to proceed with the verification, and when they say yes, we asked 3 questions about last name, mobile number, and postcode, and then we trigger our flow for customer identification process, wherein we've got variables, we list records, match the details, filter them based on inputs, and then we're returning a value to the Power Virtual Agent as an output. That's all I've done, and it works perfectly fine. Now, I would like to extend my thank you to all of you for this series. This was the last episode. I would also like to say that stay safe in these circumstances and be very aware of your surroundings. Learn something new every day. If you get time, watch videos, enroll to my online courses if you haven't yet. It's diyd365.newzenler.com. You can go there, and the courses are free. So there is Canvas app in an hour, there is CDS in an hour, so it's really worth your time if you would like to check it out. And lastly, do give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you come here often and you haven't done it yet. Thank you. Have a great day.